Hello and welcome to the Sports Leadership Playbook podcast. Dr. Robert Pryor, along with my special guest today, Shanna Alexander. She is the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Compliance at Merrimack College. We are happy to have her on board to talk about her background and really give some insights into what she does in her daily walk and her journey from the beginning when she was a student athlete, as a track athlete, to where she is now in her position as a high-ranking official when it comes to NCAA Division I compliance and student services. So, Shana, welcome.
Dr. Pryor, thank you so much. It's so fun to be here. Honored to be a part of this.
Well, thank you for joining. If you could you just start off with sort of a brief history of how we met, how you got really your start working in the sports industry, and maybe where you were initially, and then how things just turned around when you finally kind of found what you might be interested in.
Yeah, so, geez, my story starts all the way back when I was a student athlete, a track student athlete at UMass Lowell. I had an amazing experience there as a student and an athlete, and was actually a finance and management major there. And I had a really important conversation with the SWA at the time, who said, you need to make sure that you're doing what you're passionate about. And I thought immediately, well, finance is not what I am passionate about. And so thus began the journey toward wanting to be her, um, and help recreate this really great experience that I had as a student athlete. And so, from the get-go, I was trying to find some graduate assistantships and it just wasn't working out. So gave that up. Actually went into finance and worked in finance for about a month and I just didn't like it. It wasn't the right fit for me. And found, actually sort of on a whim, the Master of Sports Leadership program at Northeastern. It was in its infancy. I think it was literally not even a year old when I first enrolled. And so I enrolled in that and was able to get some really valuable experience specific to college athletics. And through the program, as you know, we have to do an internship. And so I did my internship at Harvard in compliance. I didn't really mean to get into compliance, but it was kind of what was available. And so and what was offered. And so I jumped in and, I think that started the trajectory for me of really being able to do what I've loved for the last almost 20 years. I was able to, after my intern year, stay on in a coordinator of compliance capacity and ended up being at Harvard for 10 years and sort of throughout those 10 years was able to take on more and more and work my way up the proverbial ladder. And then an opportunity at Quinnipiac came around, and we can talk about maybe later how that opportunity came around. And so I took it. I was a senior associate athletic director for compliance and student development position. I was at Quinnipiac for just under 7 years. And then this opportunity at Merrimack came about. I'm from Boston, and so being able to come in as a senior associate AD and SWA, still oversee compliance, but not be as involved in the day to day was exciting to me. And so, yeah, I've been here for just over 2 years now, and I'm back. I'm close to home, about 20 minutes away from my parents and sisters and brother-in-law and all the people that matter most to me outside of you know the work that we do every day. It's been a really good 2 years.
So, full circle moment, how you've
Full circle.
gained great experience along the way, and able to move back home and continue to make an impact on the student athletes there at Merrimack. So, I guess, could you talk about kind of your daily walk? What is it that you do in your position? Could you explain what an SWA is? Some people may not know what the SWA is as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just what you do from day to day, and what you really enjoy about it.
Yeah, so I as senior associate AD and SWA here, I oversee most of the internal aspects of what we do here at Merrimack. So anything that hits the student athlete experience, I probably have a hand in. So I oversee compliance, academics, sports performance, the athletic training room. I'm also the liaison to the with student affairs. So anything that comes out of the dean's office, if we have Title IX. Concerns, I'm probably in the loop and have a hand in. And so, and I also am sports supervisor for currently about 20 of our 28 varsity programs. And so every day is a little
I
different,
was going to
kind of
say, do you
depends
have to be
on.
at all of their events or just a certain few?
We have not set that expectation for me because it's virtually impossible. However, I think as we start to blow out the sports supervision program here, where we're trying to have every administrator on staff have 3 to 4 sports as opposed to
Mm,
so many, so that we can really do a good job of understanding what's going on at the ground level with all of our programs. That will be probably an expectation. But I do my best. I get to a lot, but not
right,
everything.
right, right.
um, yeah, so every day is you have to be a little strategic in terms of how you use your time. I try to get here early in the morning to get some of the easy logistical few emails that I know I need to send out before the rest of the staff is in here, and my then from there, my door starts to become a little bit of a revolving one in terms of you never know what I'm going to get pulled into. I also had play a role in the enrollment management side of what we do here at Merrimack, and so recently that's been taking up a fair amount of my time. But yeah, and so the SWA program or designation, it's just that it's a designation that the NCAA created in the 80s actually to ensure that institutions at the Division I level are placing women at the table to make decisions. And so it stands for Senior Women Administrator. I think that the SWA position it's changed over the years, right? Like I think that the women who I follow, who paved the way for other women in the industry to be in leadership positions had to play a very different role as an SWA than I do. I think the role that I play as an SWA now is ensuring that when I'm at the table, I am using my voice because there are people who have worked really hard for me to be able to have a voice in this industry as a female. Um, I, I try to play a role with our female athletes in terms of them understanding who I am and how I can support them. I tell them at the beginning of the year at compliance meetings, that my door is open, and if they need anybody to talk to about anything, really, that I'm a good person to reach out to, and that we're there to support them. And so, yeah, the SWA position, it's a really fun one. It's something that I think female administrators work really hard to obtain in this industry. And it's
Mm,
something that I am aware of and try to make others proud in that space every day.
excellent, excellent. I guess the next question I would ask is, obviously you interact with the coaches quite a bit. Building that trust between the coaches and the administration. Sometimes there can be some tension. I guess what is from a leadership perspective, what is your advice for somebody to kind of bridge that gap and have them understand that you're looking out for their best interest and for the entire athletic program, so they're not siloed and just looking at themselves, but kind of looking at Merrimack athletics as a whole and how you can work together with them to get the best outcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's actually something that I've grown into a fair amount, and my approach has changed over the years as I've become honestly as I've become more privy to some of the inner workings of how this industry works and how decisions are made at the senior level. I think that in terms of building their trust, it's important to me that I'm sincere and authentic and I'm myself. And that I am remembering that they're not in the same meetings that I am, listening about, what the goals are, what the strategic plans are, all of that. And so really taking time to explain what I can to them in terms of, this is where we're at, this is the direction we're going, this is why we're making this decision, and it's based on not necessarily what's happening today, but what we would like to happen in the future. And really doing my best to explain that in a way that makes sense to them. And also listening, right? Like sometimes they need to vent.
Hmm.
Everybody needs to vent.
Right.
And so,
Right.
like being someone who they know that they can come in and vent about something, and that
Hmm.
I'll listen, and that I'll do my best to eliminate, the hurdles that exist for them in their program. And
Hmm.
also knowing though that like I don't get to say yes every day. Um,
Right. Right. But that's the trust. If they can come to you to vent, sometimes people just need to talk, right? It's not that they're looking for a solution. They just need to talk to somebody that they feel cares. So that's definitely a feather in your cap.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So the next topic is one that I'm sure you hear about every day. When you were at Quinnipiac, you developed a program for student athletes related to NIL. And we hear about NIL at the Power 3 or 4 conferences where the student athletes are, receiving money or receiving payments. But at a kind of a mid-major, when you talk about NIL with student athletes, what does that mean? Because it's obviously a different approach to NIL.
It can be, yeah. So at Merrimack, we actually have opted into the house settlement. And so we are revenue sharing with some of our athletes. And so that's been a really interesting thing to learn about and implement over the last year or so. And, for those that level of athlete, it's understanding and talking through the revenue sharing contracts and agreements that we have with those student athletes, and then also helping them understand that you're entering into a revenue sharing agreement with Merrimack, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go out and get your own NIL deals. And so, and in fact, we can help them do that now. And so
Hmm.
we've got a sponsorship staff who is able to help in some cases identify what might make sense for those students. And then from there it's for the and that's a minute section of our student athlete body. I think for the student athletes who are in the sports that we're not able to revenue share in right now, it's creating programming to help them understand what their brand is. And their brand as a college athlete might be very different than what their brand as a high school
Hmm.
athlete
Hmm.
would have been. And so yeah, so we're actually this year trying to build out some more at Merrimack,
Hmm.
that takes them through, what are their values when you look at your social media accounts 10 years from now. What do you think you want it to say? Right? Like what
Yeah.
story do you want it to tell when
Right.
employers, for freshmen, right? Like when employers 4 years from now look at your social media accounts, what story do you want it to tell? Do
Hmm.
you want it to
Hmm.
tell that um, are you out on the town every night, or is there a section of what you're doing from a leadership perspective and community
Hmm.
service with your team or outside of your team, and other interests that you have, and really understanding that, especially through social media, you're building a brand for yourself. And then through the idea of partnering with companies, and being paid for your name, image, and likeness, are you partnering with companies that speak to your values and what
Hmm.
you want your brand to build, to be like?
Right. Right. So a lot of, I guess, coaching, life coach, really helping them to understand things kind of in a big picture versus in the moment. And, when it comes to student athletes, employers love to hire student athletes because of the values that they have, right? They have the ability to work well with other people. They have the ability to be responsible, to show up every day. I mean, all of those things are what employers are looking for. So if you can build a brand that capitalizes on those positive aspects, and you have evidence, you have proof because you're competing at the Division I level, and you're also maintaining the grade point average to be eligible too. So you're balancing, training, competition, games, travel, academics, all of those things, which show uh, organizational skills, discipline, and all the things that employers are looking for. So I think that's tremendous that you're helping them to look at that and kind of look down the road, because college is preparation for a future job. So that's really how they need to look at it. So that's exciting.
There's also a level of resilience that I think athletes bring to the table in terms of, they might not play every game and they've had to have a difficult conversation with coach about
Hmm.
that and whatnot. And they made it through and they survived. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, it says a lot. So what would you say is probably the most gratifying thing that you see now that you've gotten to this point in your career? Like what's most personally gratifying at the end of the day that you can go home and say, well, I feel really great about this.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dr. Pryor. I would say the idea that I'm part of something that's bigger than myself. Um, and I think that that's true across the three institutions that I've been at, and they're all very
Hmm.
different institutions. But at the end of the day, that's what I am, right? And
Hmm.
um, I'm trying to understand the mission and vision of the college and implement through what we do in athletics. You know, something that mirrors that and that helps contribute to that. And I
Hmm.
think that that's been a really cool thing. And it's something that, when I was a compliance coordinator at Harvard, I'm not sure that I truly understood.
Hmm.
But as I've w- made my way over the years to different positions, working for different people, working for different institutions, it starts to become clearer,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is really
Well,
cool.
and the fact that you can know that you made an impact on young people and on their future, right? Like that's you're paying it forward, which is something you can't put a price tag on, but it's something we should all try to do.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What would you say has been the most challenging thing you've had to deal with as, an athletic administrator? What one thing do you feel has been most challenging, or maybe a situation that you've had to deal with, and how you overcame that through, whatever leadership decision making you made?
I think going from Quinnipiac to Merrimack, um, so at Quinnipiac and Harvard, I was strictly on the ground compliance, and, like, I knew that job like the back of my hand, right? Like, I
Hmm.
could go anywhere and do that job. There's always something comes up, but, like, right, like, I know how to
Right.
navigate
You
that
had it
job.
mastered. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, coming to Merrimack and having to, still oversee compliance, not necessarily day to day, but then also kind of understand, how to or learn how to manage these other areas has
Mm-hmm.
been rewarding, but certainly challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of like not knowing everything that's going on
Mm-hmm.
every day specifically in that, right? Like there's a
Sure.
level of it's high it's a higher level of management that I've had to adjust to
Mm-hmm.
and learn about. And it's
Mm-hmm.
challenging.
Yeah.
Uh Rewarding though,
Yes.
but certainly, yeah, just it's different. It's
I can
different.
imagine. I can imagine when you were so hands-on and you knew you were going to get it done, to now where you're probably delegating to other people, and that's where in leadership you need to surround yourself with good people. You need to also empower people, because if you get too involved, then they don't feel like they're involved in the
Right.
decision making, right? So,
Right.
so that's where you build trust with your staff, right? To empower them, to delegate, because you can't do everything, right? Now that you realize if you spread yourself too thin, then there's going to be some gaps and stuff is going to fall through. So you don't want that to happen.
And it's also learning, like knowing just enough about what is happening so that if somebody were to ask, I can
Yeah,
speak to it intelligently.
right,
But yeah.
right. So we're coming close to the end of our time here, but I wanted to ask one final thing. Since you were in the inaugural class at Northeastern for the Sports Leadership Program, I believe you graduated in 2007.
It's accurate.
When you look back now, right? So that was a few years ago. What piece of advice would you give to a prospective student who is looking to work in the sports industry? It's coming in kind of blind. Maybe they didn't have an undergrad sport management background. They have a passion for sports. Maybe they were a student athlete or they played sports. They want to get a job in the industry. What kind of advice would you give them about how to get to that point? Because it's not easy, but what sort of things benefited you maybe with your approach?
Yeah. So I think being willing to jump in and do whatever is needed, and doing it to the best of your ability is a great thing to do. One thing that I've learned is you never know who's watching, and more times than not, somebody is. I got the position that I got at Quinnipiac because the former athletic director there and I were working on some women's rugby emerging sport stuff. And he was like, "You're doing a really good job with this. There's a position open at Quinnipiac. Would you be interested in it?" And I said,
Wow.
"You're not even the athletic director anymore." And so, yeah, you never know when people are watching and listening and observing. And so always put your best foot forward. And I would say don't give up. The college sports industry today is very different than it was even 10 years ago. And um, I am finding through hiring processes that I have run, that the quality candidates aren't out there in as many numbers as they used to be. And so keep trying, 'cause you never know when somebody is going to take a look at your resume and see maybe that you've done a good job somewhere else and just say, I need a quality person here and the rest can be
Mm-hmm.
taught. And so keep
Mm-hmm.
trying and use your network, especially here at Northeastern. At the greatest quality of the sports leadership program and Northeastern as a institution is the networks that they create. And so uh, the amount of people who are here at Merrimack who have a connection to Northeastern is like probably every 4 out of 5 people that work here have some type of a connection to Northeastern, right?
Right.
So use that especially
Mm-hmm.
as an alum of the program, whether recent or upcoming. We're everywhere and we're all
Right.
willing to help.
Excellent. And in the sports industry, networking is really the key. There's so much crossover. People know people everywhere. So build a network, utilize your alumni network. Always, like I said, put your best foot forward, be patient, be persistent, stay positive, and word of mouth is very important too. So a recommendation from somebody goes a long way because there's so many resumes out there. If somebody that you trust recommends somebody, they're not going to send somebody your way that's not going to be, the right candidates.
Yep.
So that's great.
And And know that if you weren't the right person for one job, it doesn't mean that you're not the right person for another job.
Hmm.
One of the things that I do when I'm hiring actually is I'll look and see, was this position open somewhere recently where I know people and can I call them and ask them who else
Hmm.
they spoke with
Wow.
and if they think that that person would be a good fit here.
Uh-huh.
And so, but that goes back to, everyone, we're always observing.
Yes. Yeah. You have to do your
Yeah.
homework.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much, Shana, for joining us today and the Sports Leadership Playbook podcast. Thank you for all you've done for the Sports Leadership Program at Northeastern. You've been a great ambassador, always willing to speak with students, always willing to participate in any events that we have. So I really appreciate that. And continued success at Merrimack and whatever your future holds. So thank you very much.
Thank you. This is what it's all about. I'm honored to be
That's
here. Thanks for
that's
having
right.
me.
All right. Thank you for joining us today for the Sports Leadership Playbook podcast.